We are undoubtedly living through a moment where the promise of artificial intelligence, especially generative AI, feels absolutely boundless. It's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Companies are pouring resources into it, adopting it at a breathtaking pace. Yet, here's a central question that's nagging at boardrooms globally. If everyone's investing so much in AI, why aren't we consistently seeing a significant, a deniable impact on the bottom line?
Yeah.
It feels like we're caught in this strange paradox.
You've absolutely hit on the critical shift happening right now. That initial hype cycle, the exciting experimental phase of AI, that's really given way to a clear, pretty unforgiving mandate from boards and shareholders.
Which is?
The demand is no longer just about using AI. It's shifted to tangible value realization and, crucially, quantifiable return on investment.
Right. Show me the money.
Exactly. Our source material today is essentially a strategic blueprint for how enterprises can actually achieve that, moving beyond just adoption to, well, truly engineered, measurable value.
And that's exactly our mission today. We're going to try and cut through the noise, examine why this paradox exists, explore how businesses can genuinely measure and maximize their AI ROI, and really dig into the actual tools and strategies that are finally making a difference for those who are succeeding. This deep dive is for you, the listener. Whether you're prepping for a crucial meeting, trying to catch up on this incredibly fast-moving field, or simply, like us, intensely curious about what's genuinely working out there, we're here to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed. So let's start by looking at the current landscape. The sources confirm what many of us observe. AI adoption is widespread.
It really is.
More than 3/4 of organizations now report using AI in at least one business function. That's a substantial number.
Huge number.
But here's where it gets particularly intriguing and, frankly, a bit puzzling. There's a distinct disconnect between simply doing AI and actually profiting from AI.
Yes.
The question is shifted from if you should invest to how you invest for truly measurable results.
It's what our source describes as the Gen AI paradox. Despite all this significant investment and broad adoption, a recent McKinsey global survey on AI found that a surprising number of organizations, many, in fact, are reporting no significant bottom-line impact.
Oh, consider that. Massive spend, minimal quantifiable return. That's a really stark contrast. What's going on? Where is all that investment actually going?
Well, the analysis points pretty clearly to a flawed and superficial integration strategy. It largely boils down to two core issues. First, what they call the path of least resistance.
Okay, what does that mean?
Driven by market hype, and let's be honest, the immediate need to appear technologically current, many organizations have opted to deploy these horizontal general-purpose tools.
What do you like?
We're talking about things like enterprise-wide co-pilots and chatbots. They're visible, they're relatively easy to roll out, and they definitely convey a sense of progress.
So it's about checking a box, demonstrating that, yes, we have AI, even if the deeper impact isn't really there yet.
Precisely. The value generated by these tools, it's often diffuse. It's incredibly difficult to quantify. We're talking marginal productivity gains spread across maybe thousands of employees.
Right. A few minutes saved here, a slightly faster email there.
Exactly. And while individually helpful, these small improvements just don't easily translate into a clear, measurable impact on earnings before interest and taxes, EBIT. This makes justifying the pretty substantial investment in these tools a real uphill battle.
Okay, so that's the easy path. What's the other side of this challenge? What about the projects that could make a profound difference?
That brings us to the second issue, pilot purgatory.
Pilot purgatory. I like that term.
It's quite descriptive, isn't it? In sharp contrast to these easily deployed horizontal tools, the vertical function-specific use cases are the ones that promise truly transformative value.
Like automating a whole process.
Exactly. Imagine automating, say, 60% of a complex credit memo workflow, or completely reinventing a claims processing journey. These are the projects that could genuinely rewire the business at a fundamental level.
But they're harder.
But they are inherently more complex. They demand deep process redesign, extensive cross-functional collaboration, and frankly, a willingness to confront organizational inertia.
Yeah, that's always the tricky part.
And the unfortunate reality, according to the data, is that fewer than 10% of these high-impact vertical projects ever make it past the pilot stage to full deployment.
Only 10%. Wow. So a lot of resources are going into visible, lower-impact initiatives, while the truly transformative projects are getting stuck or maybe never even fully launched. That sounds like a recipe for executive frustration and, well, skepticism.
It absolutely creates a vicious cycle. Companies funnel heavy spending into these visible but ultimately low-impact AI initiatives. They see no clear financial return, and inevitably, executive patience wears thin.
Understandably.
And this disillusionment then jeopardizes future funding for the very complex, high-potential projects that could actually deliver on AI's promise. It's quite damaging.
Yeah, I can see that.
Gartner even forecasts that by 2025, a significant 30% of generative AI projects will be abandoned after the proof of concept phase.
30% abandoned.
Yeah, due to unclear business value, escalating costs, and often poor data quality, which is another huge factor we need to touch on.
That's a pretty stark warning about the current state. So how do organizations break out of this cycle? How do they unlock AI's true potential?
It demands a fundamental shift in approach, a really big one, and it has to be led from the very top of the organization.
Not just middle management or IT.
Absolutely not. The solution lies in a top-down mandate to rewire the business. The true sustainable value of AI doesn't come from simply plugging new tools into existing, maybe inefficient processes. It emerges from fundamentally rewiring how the company runs.
Okay, rewiring. What does that look like in practice?
Well, McKinsey's analysis confirms this. It shows that of all the attributes they tested, the fundamental redesign of workflows has the single biggest effect on an organization's ability to realize that EBIT impact from its use of generative AI.
So this isn't merely an IT department challenge then. It's a core business transformation.
Precisely. Our source puts it bluntly. This is not a technology project. It is a business transformation initiative. And because of that, effective AI implementation must be a top-down process. It has to be driven by a fully committed C-suite and an engaged board of directors.
Not delegated down.
The common practice of just delegating AI implementation to the IT department has been repeatedly identified as a recipe for failure.
Okay.
IT can procure and deploy the technology, absolutely, but only business leaders have the authority and the insight to redesign workflows, redefine roles, and drive the cultural change necessary to truly capture value.
So the CEO needs to own this.
The most critical first action for a CEO, according to our source, is to publicly and unequivocally reframe AI as a business transformation program that is owned by the business. That single act can change the entire dynamic of planning, funding, governance, and execution.
That's a powerful statement about leadership's role. And you mentioned a shift in the unit of transformation.
Yeah.
Not just isolated use cases anymore.
Yes, exactly. The focus needs to evolve. We need to move from thinking about isolated use cases to the end-to-end business process or the complete persona journey.
Give me an example.
Instead of asking the tactical question, where can I use AI in this function? Leaders need to shift to the strategic and transformative question. What would this function look like if AI agents ran, say, 60% of it?
Ah, okay. That forces a totally different perspective.
It forces a complete reinvention of workflows, decision logic, human-system interactions, and performance metrics across the entire value chain. It's a much bigger, more impactful question.
That leads perfectly into the concept of alignment. If you're going to rewire the business at that level, you need a very precise blueprint. Right.
You absolutely do. To ensure that these AI initiatives create lasting, integrated value rather than just isolated pockets of innovation, they must be aligned with the organization's strategic enterprise architecture, or SEA.
ECA.
And this framework, it extends beyond just technical architecture. It provides a holistic structure for aligning new technology with 4 core business pillars.
Could you elaborate on those 4 pillars? What are they?
Certainly. First, organizational purpose and business strategy. The AI initiatives must directly advance the company's mission, its vision, and its core strategic objectives. Pretty straightforward.
Makes sense.
Second, people and culture. The organization's leadership model, talent composition, skills profile, and cultural values, all of these must be prepared to actually support and adopt the change. You can't just impose it.
Right, the human element.
Third, process and operational structures. The design and deployment of AI has to be consistent with existing business processes, decision-making frameworks, and governance models. Or you need a clear plan to change those structures.
Integration is key.
And finally, existing technology architecture. The new AI capabilities must integrate seamlessly, or at least thoughtfully, with the current technology stack, including data assets, infrastructure, and crucially, security protocols.
That's a truly comprehensive approach. It sounds like a lot of boxes to check before even greenlighting a project, though.
It is, and it's really by design. To operationalize this alignment, leaders should employ a rigorous AI alignment checklist before greenlighting any significant AI project. Think of it as a critical governance tool.
A filter, basically.
Exactly. It helps filter out mere technology experiments from truly viable innovation projects. The checklist includes strategic alignment. Does it directly advance priorities with clear, measurable outcomes?
Okay.
Organizational readiness. Are the leadership and staff prepared for the change, or do we need a capability development roadmap first?
Crucial question.
Process feasibility. Can it integrate with current processes and operating models? Have we mapped the end-to-end workflows? And technical compatibility. Is it a good fit with existing technical architecture, data flows, and security requirements?
What's fascinating here is how this holistic view ensures that AI investments are not just technically sound, but actually strategically coherent, culturally viable, and operationally feasible.
Precisely. It maximizes their potential to create sustainable enterprise value, not just another pilot that fizzles out.
Okay, that framework helps us get started on the right foot. But then comes the perennial challenge, measuring the actual ROI of AI. Our sources tell us that traditional ROI formulas are often insufficient here. Why is AI so different when it comes to measurement?
It's a really crucial distinction. Traditional ROI models, which typically look at a predictable, maybe 12 to 18-month horizon, they simply fail to capture the unique value generation pathways of AI technologies.
How so?
Well, AI initiatives are often characterized by long-term compounding benefits. There's significant intangible value, and they have an evolutionary nature that just defies those static, point-in-time financial snapshots.
Right, it's not like buying a new machine with a fixed output increase.
Exactly. And many organizations genuinely struggle to quantify these benefits, which makes it hard to justify the high initial and ongoing costs. And that, in turn, fuels executive impatience for returns that might not materialize within those traditional budget cycles.
Okay, so if the traditional approach falls short, what's a more robust framework for measuring success? How should we be thinking about this?
We really need what our source calls a time-phased approach to measuring AI value. The critical mismatch is precisely that traditional 12 to 18-month ROI expectation versus AI's reality. Which is that it often takes 12 to 24 months just to deliver the initial, often non-financial benefits.
Okay, so if you judge it too early.
If you evaluate a transformative AI project at the 12-month mark using only hard financial metrics, it will almost certainly appear to be failing. And that leads to its premature termination.
Which then reinforces the false narrative that AI doesn't work here.
Precisely. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's an incredibly important distinction. Could you elaborate on these different phases of ROI? How does this time-phased approach work?
Yeah, this approach distinguishes between leading and lagging indicators of success. First, we have what's called trending ROI. This focuses on short to midterm metrics.
Okay, trending ROI.
These are early, progress-oriented leading indicators. They signal that an AI initiative is delivering value, even if that value hasn't yet appeared on the balance sheet. They represent the essential groundwork for future financial returns.
So they show you're on the right track.
Exactly. Tracking these metrics allows teams to demonstrate momentum, build stakeholder confidence, and justify continued investment during those crucial early stages of deployment.
What are some concrete examples of those leading indicators? What should people look for?
Certainly. They include things like improved employee productivity and efficiency gains, maybe faster time to value for new products or services, higher user adoption rates and frequency of use. Are people actually using the tool?
Right.
Also, improved customer engagement and satisfaction scores and reductions in process cycle times or error rates. These are all positive signs that the AI is working, even if the direct financial impacts aren't yet fully realized.
Okay, that makes sense. Leading indicators build confidence. And then when do the more direct financial impacts become clear?
That's where realized ROI comes in. This represents the mid to long-term impact. These are the quantifiable, results-oriented impacts that directly affect financial statements.
The lagging indicators.
Exactly. These are the lagging indicators that typically become visible only after an AI system is fully integrated, adopted, and optimized. These are the metrics that provide the ultimate justification for the investment.
Such as direct cost savings, I assume.
Exactly. Direct cost savings from automation and labor efficiencies, measurable revenue growth from new AI-powered products or improved conversion rates, supply chain optimization leading to reduced inventory carrying costs, or maybe reduced regulatory fines or compliance costs through fewer errors.
Got it.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's vital that the C-suite, and particularly the CFO, champions a portfolio approach to AI investment. They need to categorize projects and formally communicate this time-phased ROI model to all stakeholders.
Manage expectations, essentially.
Absolutely critical for setting realistic expectations and protecting long-term transformative innovation from potentially damaging short-term financial scrutiny.
So it's not just about when you measure, but also what you measure. It sounds like a broader view of success is truly needed here.
Absolutely. To capture the full spectrum of AI's impact, organizations really must adopt a multidimensional KPI framework. This moves beyond purely financial metrics to capture value across multiple dimensions, connecting operational improvements to strategic business outcomes.
So,
A robust model integrates metrics spanning, say, financial impact, operational efficiency, customer experience, workforce productivity, and even architectural health and risk.
let's break that down a bit. What are the key dimensions and maybe some example metrics for each?
Sure. First, financial impact. These are the ultimate measures, right? Realize key performance indicators, KPIs, like direct ROI, cost savings from labor and operations, revenue growth from new AI products, and profit margin improvements, the hard numbers.
Okay, the bottom line.
Second, operational efficiency. These quantify improvements in core processes. Trending KPIs here might include process throughput and automation levels. Are things moving faster? Are we automating more? Then the realized KPIs would be things like error rate reduction, ERR, and faster time to market, TTM.
Makes sense. What about the customer and the employees? How do we measure AI's impact there?
Yeah.
Because that's often where the value is felt first.
Great point. For customer experience, CX, trending KPIs might be customer satisfaction, CSAT scores, and first contact resolution, FCR rates. Are customers happier? Are their issues solved faster?
Right.
Then the realized KPIs would include Net Promoter Score, NPS, a widely used measure of customer loyalty reduction in customer churn, and increased customer lifetime value, CLV. Are they staying longer and spending more?
Got it. And for the workforce.
For workforce productivity and employee experience, EX, we look at trending KPIs like user adoption rate and frequency of use again, are employees using it, and realized KPIs like employee net promoter score, ENPS, are employees happier, reduction in employee attrition, and quantifiable time saved on specific tasks.
Okay, and the last one, architectural health.
Finally, for architectural and risk mitigation, trending KPIs might involve data asset utilization and model accuracy. Are we using our data well? Are the models performing? This leads to realized KPIs like reduction in technical debt, improved regulatory efficiency, and quantifiable savings from things like fraud prevention.
Wow, okay.
By tracking this balanced portfolio, organizations can paint a really complete picture of AI's value, linking those early operational wins to eventual financial success. It tells the whole story.
Those are a lot of metrics, but it absolutely makes sense to capture the full picture.
Yeah.
Can you bring these metrics to life with some real-world examples? How do these ROI calculations actually play out in practice?
Absolutely. Let's look at a couple of compelling case studies in ROI calculation from the source material.
Perfect. Let's hear them.
Our first example is from a financial services call center automation based on a Microsoft analysis. The problem was pretty standard. Significant inefficiencies arising from agents spending too much time on routine, repetitive calls, and also from high rates of call misrouting, which added substantial wasted time and cost.
Yeah, common call center issues.
Exactly. The solution was deploying an agentic AI application. It did two things. Automated the routine calls entirely and intelligently routed the more complex inquiries to the correct human agent the first time.
Okay, so what was the quantifiable impact there? What did the numbers show?
The tangible benefits, specifically the cost savings, were pretty significant. They calculated $15,000 per year saved from automating 10,000 routine calls, $50,000 per year saved from eliminating misrouting costs for 100,000 calls, and another $10,000 per year from efficiency gains that allowed agents to handle 4,000 additional calls.
Okay, adding that up.
That sums up to a total annual savings of $75,000. Now, the cost of investment was $40,000 for implementation and integration, plus about $5,000 annually for maintenance, so the total annual cost was $45,000.
And the ROI on that. 75K savings, 45K cost.
The net benefit was $30,000 per year, $75,000 savings minus $45,000 cost, which translates to an impressive 67% annual return. This clearly demonstrated financial value by directly addressing those operational bottlenecks, a solid win.
That's a strong, clear case for automation. What's another example? Maybe something different.
Okay, our second case study highlights a home goods retailer's content automation. The problem here was that manually creating product descriptions for new launches was incredibly slow, taking something like 3 hours per product.
3 hours per product. Wow.
Yeah, and it was expensive and highly error-prone. They had a 20% SEO error rate and a 47% overall error rate in the descriptions.
Ouch.
This consumed about 80% of the content team's capacity and significantly delayed time to market for new products.
That sounds like a major bottleneck for any retailer trying to get new products out quickly. A real competitive disadvantage.
It absolutely was. The solution involved building a purpose-built AI architecture using custom retrieval augmented generation, or ARA, models. This system automated the content generation, performed SEO checks, and enforced brand guidelines automatically.
Okay, so purpose-built, not just off the shelf.
Yeah.
And the results across those multiple dimensions.
The multidimensional value realization was quite profound. In terms of operational efficiency, time to market was slashed by 95%. It went from 3 days down to just 15 minutes per product.
3 days to 15 minutes. That's incredible.
It really is transformative. For quality and risk mitigation, the error rate was reduced dramatically from that 47% down to a mere 4%. And they implemented a brand sentinel LLM, which enforced compliance and reduced the need for human oversight by 95%.
Huge improvement in both quality and speed. What about the financial impact? Did it save money too?
Oh, yes. On the financial impact front, the direct content creation costs were cut by 75%, and the cloud architecture helped reduce overall content-related costs by 80%.
Impressive.
But critically, for workforce productivity, this automation freed up over 300 hours per month for the content team. It liberated 80% of their capacity. They went from having only 20% of their time available for strategic work to having 96% available.
So they weren't just faster, they could do entirely different things.
Exactly. They could be redirected to high-value strategic initiatives like analyzing customer sentiment or developing broader content strategies instead of just churning out basic descriptions.
That's fascinating. So not just cost savings, but a complete transformation of the team's strategic role. This clearly shows the power of looking beyond just one metric.
Absolutely.
But what about those trickier, seemingly intangible benefits? How do you quantify things like improved decision-making or enhanced brand reputation? That feels much harder.
It's definitely a common struggle, but it's essential to try and address them as they contribute significantly to the long-term ROI picture. You can't just ignore them because they're hard to measure.
So how do you approach it?
We can use proxy metrics and logical frameworks to estimate their value. For improved decision-making, you link the AI-driven insights to specific business outcomes. For example, if an AI forecasting model leads to a 10% reduction in inventory overstocking, the value is the carrying cost saved on that excess inventory.
Okay, connected to a concrete saving.
Or if AI helps identify risks faster, maybe the value can be framed as the cost of a mitigated negative event that was avoided because you saw it coming.
So it's about connecting the intangible improvement to a tangible financial outcome it directly influences or prevents.
Exactly. For enhanced brand reputation, a stronger brand directly translates to tangible financial benefits, right? You can estimate this by measuring increases in customer loyalty, which translates to a higher customer lifetime value, CLV.
Makes sense.
Or maybe reduced price sensitivity, allowing you to maintain premium pricing, or perhaps lower customer acquisition costs due to positive word-of-mouth referrals.
Okay, I see the logic. What about employees?
Similarly, increased employee satisfaction, often measured by ENPS, the Employee Net Promoter Score, directly correlates with lower attrition. The value here can be calculated by estimating the reduction in recruitment, hiring, and training costs associated with lower employee turnover. People staying longer saves real money.
Right. And innovation.
And finally, increased innovation. When AI automates mundane tasks, it frees up employee time for creative and strategic work, like we saw with the retailer. The value of this can be estimated by tracking the number of new products, services, or process improvements generated by teams whose capacity has been liberated by AI.
This raises an important question. How does this systematic approach build a more comprehensive justification for AI investments? It feels more robust than just looking at cost savings.
It provides a cohesive, multifaceted narrative. By systematically assessing both tangible and, let's say, quantified intangible benefits, organizations can build a comprehensive and defensible justification for their AI investments. It aligns all stakeholders, finance, business, tech, around a shared understanding of total value creation.
A common language.
Exactly. Our source even includes a template, Table 1, the multidimensional AI value realization matrix, that serves as a practical framework for connecting strategic goals to specific KPIs across various teams. It offers that common language for business, finance, and technology to track and report on AI value. It's about showing the full, multifaceted return, not just one slice of it.
So we've talked about why we're seeing this paradox and how to measure value more effectively. Now let's turn our attention to the actual technologies driving this transformation. What does all this mean for the tools themselves? Our sources really highlight generative AI and AI agents as, well, the engine room of this entire shift.
They absolutely are. And while the terms are often used interchangeably in conversation, generative AI and AI agents represent different rungs on the ladder of artificial intelligence. They offer complementary but distinct capabilities.
Okay, let's clarify that difference. What's generative AI at its core?
Generative AI, leveraging powerful large language models or LLMs, is fundamentally about creation. It's about producing new, synthetic content like human-like text, images, audio, or code based on prompts you give it.
Content generation.
Exactly. Its core value proposition lies in content creation at scale, summarization of complex information, and the enhancement of existing data. Essentially, it acts as a powerful assistant, augmenting human creativity and productivity.
Okay, so it helps humans do things, and then what's the next step beyond that, the AI agent? How is that different?
Correct. AI agents represent the next evolutionary step. They move beyond passive generation to autonomous action.
Autonomous action.
Okay. Think of an agent as a system that can perceive its environment, it can reason, it can create a plan, and then it can execute multi-step actions to achieve a specific goal, all with minimal human intervention. They are the engine for automating complex, dynamic workflows.
So more proactive.
Yeah.
More independent.
Much more. Unlike a simple chatbot that just responds to a query, an AI agent can take that query, then autonomously access multiple systems, like your CRM system and your ERP system, perform a series of tasks, like checking inventory, placing an order, sending a confirmation email, and maybe even adapt its plan if it encounters an obstacle along the way.
That's a significant difference. So one helps you write a report faster.
Right.
The other potentially runs the whole reporting process.
Precisely. Generative AI helps an employee write that report faster. But a team of AI agents could potentially autonomously run the entire reporting process, from data extraction and analysis all the way to distribution and even initiating follow-up actions based on the report's findings.
Okay, one is an efficiency gain. The other sounds like a fundamental business process transformation.
That's exactly the distinction. And the true transformative power really emerges when you start talking about multi-agent systems. Imagine specialized agents, maybe a decision agent and an operational agent, collaborating to tackle complex business problems. They can break down those functional silos we always talk about and create a level of operational agility that was previously just impossible.
That's fascinating. Let's dig into some concrete examples then. How are these technologies actually being used across different business functions? Where are they making a real difference?
Yeah, we have several compelling examples from the source material showing these tools streamlining internal processes and delivering quantifiable value right across the enterprise. Let's maybe start with finance and accounting.
Okay, F&A. Always right for automation.
Absolutely. This department, with its data-intensive and rules-governed processes, is really fertile ground for AI transformation. And AI agents and generative AI are moving beyond just simple automation here. They're providing intelligent insights and proactive controls. Use cases include automated transaction capture using things like optical character recognition, OCR, and natural language processing, NLP. Intelligent exception handling, where models flag only the true anomalies for human review, saving huge amounts of time. Predictive cash flow management by analyzing historical data and market indicators.
More proactive capabilities.
Oh, definitely. Dynamic fraud detection models that can continuously learn to identify evolving threats in real time. And AI is also being used for accelerated close processes, with systems suggesting journal entries and automating reconciliations to speed up that painful month-end reporting.
Any specific finance case studies that illustrate this kind of impact?
Yes, quite a few stand out. JP Morgan's COIM platform, which was an early example, reviewed thousands of legal contracts in seconds, reportedly saving millions in manual effort.
Impressive.
More recently, a mortgage technology provider called Indicom used Amazon TextRack to automate complex document review, apparently having the time needed for underwriting and mortgage origination.
Cutting processing time in half is huge in finance.
Absolutely. And a fintech bank working with a company called Inoxsoft deployed an AI solution to automate financial report generation. They reduced the time by over 70% from 5 days down to less than 1 day and dropped the error rate from 5% to less than 1%. That saved them an estimated $500,000 in the first year alone.
Wow.
And maybe one more. MasterCard has leveraged AI to prevent over $20 billion in fraudulent transactions in a single 12-month period by analyzing transaction patterns in real time. The scale is just enormous.
Those are staggering numbers in finance.
Yeah.
Okay, what about human resources? How is AI impacting HR?
In human resources, AI is doing a lot to automate those administrative burdens and also providing data-driven insights into talent management. This frees up HR professionals for more strategic, people-centric initiatives, which is where they add the most value.
What kind of tasks are being automated?
AI agents are streamlining the entire talent acquisition lifecycle. Things like automated resume screening, interview scheduling, even generating offer letters. They can also act as virtual HR assistants, providing 24/7 answers to common employee questions about benefits or policies.
And beyond automation,
AI can help predict attrition risks by analyzing engagement data and other factors. It can even suggest personalized internal career paths for employees, which can boost retention and internal mobility.
and what's been the impact on real organizations there? Any examples?
Unilever, for instance, deployed AI agents in its high-volume recruitment process. They estimated it reduced the time spent by human recruiters on interviews and evaluations by a staggering 70,000 person-hours annually.
70,000 hours.
Huge saving. And Electrolux leveraged an AI-powered platform for candidate matching and doing one-way video interviews. They reported an 84% increase in application conversion rates and a 78% reduction in the time spent scheduling interviews.
Again, massive time savings freeing up HR teams. Okay, moving on to more physical operations like manufacturing and supply chain. What's happening there?
For manufacturing and supply chain operations, AI provides the intelligence and foresight needed to manage increasing complexity and also build resilience, which is crucial these days. Predictive maintenance is a cornerstone application here.
Right, predicting failures before they happen.
Exactly. AI analyzes sensor data from machinery to predict failures weeks in advance, allowing for proactive maintenance instead of costly downtime. AI-powered computer vision systems are also automating quality control on production lines, often detecting defects more accurately and consistently than humans.
And in the supply chain itself.
In the supply chain, AI drives inventory optimization by forecasting demand much more accurately. It also enables logistics optimization by calculating the most efficient shipping routes and schedules. More advanced AI agents can even create digital twins of entire supply chains to simulate disruptions or autonomously manage complex tasks like reordering supplies based on predicted needs.
Any big names making a significant impact in this area that you can mention?
Siemens is a great example. They integrate AI into their production lines to predict machine failures weeks in advance, enabling just-in-time repairs.
UPS famously developed its Orion system.
Oh, yeah, the route optimization. Exactly. It optimizes delivery routes for its entire fleet, saving an estimated 100 million miles and 10 million gallons of fuel annually. Huge environmental and cost savings.
Incredible scale.
And one more from the source. A mid-sized manufacturing client of a firm called Litslink implemented a comprehensive AI agent. It achieved over 90% accuracy in demand forecasting. This led to a 15% reduction in inventory holding costs, a 12% drop in shipping costs, a 25% reduction in supplier-caused delays, and a 30% boost in overall operational efficiency across their value chain. Real, measurable impacts.
Those are some serious efficiency gains across the board. Okay, how is AI transforming customer support? That feels like a natural fit.
Customer support and engagement is definitely being revolutionized. AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants are providing that 247 support for routine inquiries, freeing up human agents for the more complex, empathetic interactions.
But going beyond basic chatbots.
Yes. More advanced AI agents are leveraging natural language processing, NLP, to really understand customer intent and even emotion. They can access multiple back-end systems to resolve problems autonomously, and they can personalize interactions in real time. Generative AI is also being used to create highly personalized customer communications, like tailored marketing emails or support follow-ups.
And the results from those kinds of applications, what are companies seeing?
Six Flags uses a chatbot built on Google's Vertex AI platform. They report it automates answers for about 30% of all guest questions, reducing wait times and freeing up staff.
30% is significant.
It is. Vodafone implemented a generative AI virtual assistant they call Super Toby. It apparently boosted their first-time resolution rate from just 15% up to 60% and increased their net promoter score by 14 points. That's a huge leap in customer satisfaction.
Wow, 15 to 60% FCR, that's massive.
And Stitch Fix, the personalized clothing service, used generative AI to help their stylists create personalized style notes for customers much faster. It reduced the content creation time by over 50%, allowing stylists to spend more time on relationship building and less on rating descriptions.
Okay, makes sense. Finally, what about marketing and sales? Feels like that's a very natural fit for AI's content generation and personalization capabilities.
Absolutely. In marketing and sales, AI is really key to unlocking personalization at scale, optimizing marketing spend, and accelerating the sales cycle. Generative AI, as you said, is creating SEO-optimized content like blogs and landing pages at scale. AI agents can deliver hyper-personalized marketing campaigns by analyzing customer data to tailor offers and messaging in real time.
And for the sales teams.
In sales, AI is being used for intelligent lead scoring to help prioritize outreach efforts on the most promising prospects. Agentic systems can even automate follow-ups and help manage pipeline data more effectively.
Any specific wins for these areas mentioned in the sources?
L'Oreal used generative AI to streamline its product content development, reducing cycles by 60%, which allowed for faster product launches. Their AI-powered virtual beauty assistants also led to a reported 35% increase in user interaction time and a 22% higher conversion rate.
Engaging customers more effectively.
Exactly. Microsoft enhanced its own sales process by using AI to score leads. They apparently quadrupled the conversion rate of marketing leads to sales qualified opportunities from 4% up to 18%.
Quadrupled conversion has a huge impact on revenue.
Massive. And remember the home goods retailer we discussed earlier with the content automation?
Yes, the 3 days to 15 minutes.
Exactly. They used their purpose-built AI to slash time to market for new product content from 3 days to just 15 minutes. That 95% reduction fundamentally changed their ability to respond quickly to market trends and get products online.
So if I'm hearing this right, the key pattern emerging from all these diverse examples is that the real value isn't just about automating a single task within one department. It's about AI orchestrating complex workflows across multiple functional silos.
You've precisely captured the essence. The most powerful applications, the truly transformative ones, emerge when AI agents orchestrate complex workflows that span multiple functional silos.
Like the supply chain example you touched on.
Exactly. A supply chain disruption, for instance, isn't just a logistics problem, is it? It has immediate implications for finance, cash flow, procurement, finding alternatives, and customer service, managing expectations. A traditional, siloed automation approach might address only one piece of this puzzle.
Right, it fixes the logistics part but ignores the rest.
But an agentic workflow, however, can connect these disparate functions. This raises an important question. How can an agent that detects a potential supply delay autonomously trigger a finance agent to model the cash flow impact, a procurement agent to start sourcing alternative suppliers, and a customer service agent to proactively communicate with affected clients, all coordinated?
That level of coordination is the game changer.
This interconnected, autonomous response creates a level of business resilience, agility, and frankly, emergent value that is far greater than the sum of its siloed parts. To capture this value, organizations must design AI initiatives around end-to-end value streams like order to cash or procure to pay, rather than just departmental functions.
And that
That strategic choice requires the top-down leadership and the cross-functional teams we discussed earlier. It's a fundamentally different way of organizing work in technology.
So now we understand what AI, particularly generative AI and agents, can do and the kind of impact it can have when orchestrated properly. But how do you actually put these pieces together? How do organizations move from piloting exciting projects to truly integrating AI successfully across the enterprise? It really sounds like you need a structured, phased roadmap.
That's absolutely right. Successfully integrating AI into the enterprise isn't a single event. It's a sustained journey that requires a clear, structured, and phased roadmap. Moving from that initial exploration phase to realizing enterprise-wide value demands careful planning, disciplined execution, and, as we've touched on, a profound cultural shift alongside it.
So the roadmap provides the blueprint.
Exactly. It guides the organization through stages of increasing maturity, ensuring that technology deployment is synchronized with business strategy, data readiness, and organizational change. Our sources outline a practical 5-stage implementation model that seems quite robust.
Okay, let's walk through those stages. What's the very first step? Where do you begin?
Stage 1, exploring and planning. This is really the foundational stage, focused entirely on building the strategic case for AI. The objective is to move from just vague ambitions to a concrete plan.
What happens in this stage?
Key activities include clearly defining the business pain points that AI will address and explicitly aligning proposed initiatives with the overarching company strategy. You also need to honestly assess the organization's data infrastructure, data quality, and technical capabilities to ensure they can actually support AI.
Reality check up front.
Absolutely. Then, you identify and prioritize potential use cases based on both business impact and feasibility, aiming to select just a few high-impact pilot projects to start. And finally, you build a formal business case for each pilot, outlining the problem, scope, objectives, data sources needed, and the potential business value you expect.
And the pitfall to avoid here.
The big one is shiny object syndrome, chasing the latest AI tech without a clear business case. And also, critically, a lack of genuine leadership buy-in at this early stage. If the top isn't committed, it probably won't go far.
That makes sense. Starting with a solid, strategically aligned plan is critical. What comes after planning?
Stage 2, implementing the pilot. This stage is all about proving value, but on a small, manageable scale. The mantra here is really start small, then scale.
Don't try to boil the ocean.
Exactly. You select a well-defined pilot project with clear, measurable outcomes, maybe automating a single repetitive task or augmenting a specific decision point. You then form a cross-functional team, bringing together people from IT, data science, and the relevant business units. This collaboration is absolutely essential for ensuring the solution is technically sound and meets real-world business needs.
And the goal is an MVP.
Yes. The team develops and deploys a minimum viable product, MVP, that can demonstrate value relatively quickly. The pitfall to avoid here, as we mentioned earlier, is getting stuck in pilot purgatory, where projects just get tested and tweaked forever but never actually move to wider deployment and real impact.
Right, escaping the lab. So once you've got a pilot going and it's hopefully proving its worth, what's the next step?
Stage 3, measuring and refining. Once the pilot is live, the focus shifts immediately to rigorous measurement and iterative improvement. You have to continuously track the pilot against the key performance indicators you established back in the planning phase, using both those trending leading metrics like user adoption and the realized lagging metrics like error reduction.
And getting feedback.
Crucially important, you need to actively solicit feedback from the end users to understand what's working well and, just as importantly, where the friction points are. Then, you use that performance data and user feedback to retrain models, optimize algorithms, and refine the workflow to maximize the impact. It's a cycle of measure, learn, improve.
Okay, continuous improvement. And once that refinement is done and the pilot is demonstrably successful, then you can think about scaling it.
Exactly. That leads logically to stage 4, scaling. With the successful pilot and ideally demonstrated ROI, the organization can begin to confidently expand the solution. This involves developing a full scaling plan to expand the AI initiative across other departments, regions, or business units.
Which requires more planning.
Yes, it requires a comprehensive investment plan and a clear strategy for standardizing processes. To scale efficiently, especially when you're talking about AI agents, it's crucial to develop a common agentic framework and foundational architecture, rather than building bespoke one-off solutions for each new use case. That becomes unmanageable.
And communication.
Critically important. You must use transparent reporting and clear communication of the pilot's success to build trust and buy-in for the wider rollout. People need to see the value. Critical success factors here include that demonstrated ROI from the pilot, a robust and scalable architecture, and really strong change management.
Pitfalls at this stage.
Trying to scale without adequate governance in place, ignoring the technical debt you might be accumulating, or failing to proactively manage the inevitable cultural resistance to broader change.
And what's the final stage? When AI is ideally fully embedded into the organization, what does that look like?
That's stage 5, realizing and optimizing. At this mature stage, AI is deeply embedded in the organization's operations and its culture. The focus shifts from just implementation to continuous value creation.
Ongoing improvement.
Right. The organization actively seeks to maximize the return from its entire portfolio of AI investments. It continuously monitors and optimizes AI models and workflows as part of normal business operations. And it leverages its now established AI capabilities and data-driven culture to explore new, perhaps even more transformative opportunities and maintain its competitive edge.
The danger here, complacency.
Exactly. The pitfall to avoid is complacency failing to evolve as AI technology continues to advance rapidly, or perhaps stifling innovation with overly rigid governance that prevents experimentation with new approaches. It's a continuous journey.
This roadmap is very clear, logical. But a phased approach like this still depends so heavily on the people involved. It really sounds like the human element is truly crucial for this roadmap to succeed. You can't just focus on the tech.
It absolutely is. Technology alone is never, ever enough. You can have the most sophisticated AI platform in the world, but it will fail if the organization's culture does not support it. A successful AI transformation is absolutely contingent upon a parallel cultural transformation. You need to create an environment where data becomes the lingua franca, as the source puts it, and where data-driven decision-making is the default, not the exception.
And that doesn't just happen organically.
No. The most successful firms don't just hope for a data-driven culture. They actively build the systems, the incentives, and crucially, the leadership behaviors that make it the path of least resistance for everyone.
So how do you actually build that kind of data-driven culture? What does leadership need to do specifically to foster this?
Well, first and foremost, leadership intervention is critical. The shift to a data-driven culture must be championed visibly and consistently from the very top. Leaders cannot simply delegate this responsibility. They have to actively and visibly lead the change themselves.
What does that look like?
It includes articulating the vision clearly and repeatedly communicating why data and AI are critical to the company's future success. They must also walk the talk by visibly using data and AI tools in their own work, in meetings, and for organizational reviews. This sets a powerful example for everyone else.
Modeling the behavior.
Exactly. And fostering psychological safety is absolutely key. Leaders need to create an environment where employees feel encouraged to experiment, to question the status quo, and importantly, to learn from failures without fear of punishment.
That failure point is interesting.
It is. The CEO of DBS Bank, for instance, famously gave an award to an employee responsible for a failed experiment. That sent a powerful message throughout the organization that risk-taking in the service of innovation was not just tolerated, but actually valued.
That's a great example of leading by example. What else helps foster this culture beyond leadership?
You also need to democratize data and tools. A data-driven culture can't thrive if data is locked away in functional or technical silos. This means investing in centralized data platforms, maybe AI data hubs, that provide a single source of truth and make relevant data accessible to all the teams who need it.
Breaking down barriers.
Yes, and you must equip non-technical users with intuitive, user-friendly, AI-powered tools that simplify data access and analysis. Things like natural language querying, asking questions in plain English, and automated dashboards. These features lower the barrier to entry and empower everyone, not just analysts, to engage with data.
And ensuring people have the skills to actually use these tools effectively. That seems like another core part of it.
Yes, invest in training and upskilling is absolutely vital. A data-driven culture requires a data-literate workforce. This means providing training on the fundamentals of data analysis, interpretation, and critical thinking about data.
Foundational skill.
Right. Also, provide tool-specific training on the AI tools being implemented, focusing on practical application and best practices, how to actually use this in your daily job. And the training should focus on building new habits and workflows, not just checking a box on a training module that people forget a week later. You need to promote a learning mindset, encouraging continuous learning and experimentation.
There's often resistance, though, to new ways of working, particularly with such a big shift like AI. How do you overcome that inevitable resistance?
You have to overcome change resistance with proactive change management. It won't just disappear on its own. Transparently communicate the why, emphasizing how AI will augment and empower employees, potentially making their jobs more interesting, not just replace them.
Address the fear factor.
Exactly. Engage employees early and often in the design and pilot process. Giving them a sense of ownership can make a huge difference in adoption. And where appropriate, provide incentives. Align performance metrics and rewards with the adoption and effective use of data and AI tools. Make it part of how we work now.
That brings us to another critical element for scaling AI successfully: ensuring safety and control, which sounds like it needs a really strong governance framework, especially as usage expands.
It absolutely does. As AI initiatives move from those isolated pilots to enterprise-wide deployment, a robust governance framework for scaling becomes completely non-negotiable. Governance is really the scaffolding that enables safe, responsible, and effective scaling of AI.
What does that scaffolding look like? What are the key components?
It includes establishing an AI ethics committee. This should be a dedicated cross-functional committee with diverse perspectives, people from legal, HR, technology, and key business units. This group is responsible for overseeing all significant AI projects, reviewing them for ethical concerns like bias, privacy, fairness, and ensuring they align with company values and policies.
So, a dedicated oversight body. What else does that framework entail for a growing AI footprint?
You need to develop clear policies and standards. These should cover data governance. Who owns the data, quality standards, data security, model transparency, how explainable does it need to be, and specific bias mitigation strategies. These provide clear guardrails for all AI development and deployment activities.
Clear rules of the road.
Precisely. It's also vital to ensure accountability. You need to establish clear ownership for every AI system's performance, its outputs, and its ongoing alignment with governance policies. Someone has to be responsible.
All right, no finger pointing.
And finally, implement continuous monitoring. AI is definitely not a set-it-and-forget-it technology. Models drift, data changes. You must implement rigorous processes for continuously monitoring models in production to detect performance degradation, model drift, or the emergence of new biases over time. This is an ongoing operational responsibility.
It sounds like a continuous cycle of vigilance.
It has to be. Our source provides a template, Table 3, Phased Enterprise AI Integration Roadmap, which also includes governance aspects, serving as a kind of self-assessment tool to help leaders navigate these stages and ensure they have the right controls in place.
So we've laid out the ideal roadmap for AI integration, the stages, the cultural shifts, the governance. But let's be realistic.
Yeah.
The path to actually achieving AI value is, as our sources state quite clearly, fraught with significant challenges.
Understatement, perhaps.
Yeah, and there's a common failure pattern that's quite insidious.
Mm-hmm.
Poor data leads to flawed models,
Yeah.
which leads to low user trust and adoption, meaning no ROI, which leads to no funding, and ultimately abandonment of the project.
It's a vicious cycle.
This cycle has to be broken. How do organizations navigate these obstacles?
Well, anticipating and proactively mitigating these risks is a critical function of leadership. It's not just about reacting when things go wrong, and the challenges are not independent. They often form a tightly coupled, self-reinforcing system, just like that cycle you described. A failure in one domain, like data quality, can easily cascade and cause failures in others, like model performance or user trust.
So you need a holistic approach.
Exactly. A holistic, systems-thinking approach is therefore essential for navigating these headwinds successfully. You can't just fix one part in isolation.
Okay, let's break down the major challenges identified in the sources and talk about their solutions. What's the most foundational one? Where do things often go wrong first?
Unsurprisingly, the foundational challenge is data governance, quality, and security. Data is the absolute lifeblood of AI, and its mismanagement is probably the most common reason for project failure.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Precisely. The problem is that high-quality, accessible data is a prerequisite for effective AI. Yet in many organizations, data is siloed, inconsistent, incomplete, and often of poor quality. This garbage in, garbage out principle means even the most advanced AI models will produce flawed or unreliable results if they're trained on bad data.
And AI introduces specific new risks related to data as well, doesn't it? It's not just about quality.
It absolutely does. AI introduces new and sometimes subtle data-related risks. For example, sensitive information, like personally identifiable information, PII, can inadvertently become embedded or memorized within trained models, creating hidden security vulnerabilities that are hard to detect.
Like the model remembering someone's specific detail.
Exactly. Also, the natural language interfaces of generative AI create new attack vectors. Things like prompt injection, where malicious actors can try to trick the model into revealing sensitive information it shouldn't, or even executing unintended commands within connected systems.
Scary stuff.
Furthermore, AI model outputs can sometimes be unpredictable, even chaotic or nonsensical, the hallucinations we hear about. This makes exhaustive testing prohibitively expensive or even impossible. The risks here are serious. Flawed models making bad decisions, security vulnerabilities, potential data breaches, and hefty regulatory fines if sensitive data is mishandled.
So how do you mitigate these serious data issues? What's the playbook?
The mitigation playbook has to start with establishing robust data governance from day one, not as an afterthought when problems arise. This means implementing a comprehensive data governance framework that clearly defines data ownership, stewardship responsibilities, quality standards, and access policies. Who can see what? Who's responsible for its accuracy?
The clarity and accountability.
Yes. You should also create a centralized governance committee, like the one we mentioned, with representatives from business, IT, legal, and compliance to oversee data and AI governance policies enterprise-wide. Invest in data quality tools for data discovery, profiling, monitoring, and maybe automated classification of sensitive data so you know where it is.
Tools to help manage it.
And finally, prioritize security and privacy by design, baking it in from the start. Use techniques like data anonymization where possible, encryption, and input sanitization to protect sensitive information before it even gets near the AI model.
Okay, data is clearly foundational. What's the next big hurdle organizations consistently face?
The AI talent and skills gap. We touched on this, but it's a major bottleneck. AI success is as much about people as it is about technology. Over 40% of leaders surveyed cite a lack of AI expertise and skilled professionals as a major impediment to their AI initiatives.
It's hard to find the right people.
It really is. There's a persistent scarcity of experienced data scientists, machine learning engineers, and especially AI product managers who can obviously build, deploy, and maintain enterprise-grade AI systems effectively.
So how do companies address this talent shortage effectively? You can't just wait for the perfect candidates to appear.
No, you need a multi-pronged strategy. The source recommends a build, buy, and partner talent strategy.
Break that down. Build, buy, partner.
Build means investing heavily in upskilling and reskilling programs within your existing workforce to develop AI complementary skills. This fosters loyalty, leverages valuable institutional knowledge, and is often more cost-effective.
Develop your own talent.
Buy means strategically hiring for those critical, specialized roles that you simply cannot fill internally, accepting you'll have to compete for that top talent. And partner means leveraging external AI consultants, agencies, or managed service providers to bridge immediate skill gaps, get projects off the ground faster, and maybe bring in external expertise.
A mix of approaches.
Exactly. Additionally, democratize AI where appropriate with user-friendly low-code or no-code platforms. This can empower business users and citizen data scientists to build certain types of solutions, reducing the reliance on that small pool of highly specialized experts for everything.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, most large organizations also have a lot of existing IT infrastructure, often quite old.
Yeah.
How do legacy systems factor into this challenge? That must be a big headache.
Integration with legacy systems and managing technical debt is a significant hurdle, absolutely. Most established enterprises don't have the luxury of a clean slate technology environment. They run on legacy systems, older ERPs, CRMs, mainframes that were never designed for the kind of data flows and real-time interaction AI often requires.
So connecting the old and the new is tough.
Connecting modern AI tools to these older systems can be technically complex, costly, and very time-consuming. Plus, accumulated technical debt, those past shortcuts and aging infrastructure, can severely hinder the performance and scalability of new AI applications built on top.
So how do you bridge that gap without a complete, often impossibly expensive, rip-and-replace overhaul?
It usually requires a pragmatic approach. First, you prioritize strategic modernization of only the most critical legacy systems that are essential for your high-priority AI initiatives. You don't have to fix everything at once.
Focus the effort.
Second, you use middleware and APIs, application programming interfaces, as a bridge. Leverage modern integration technologies to create a communication layer between the legacy systems and the new AI tools, allowing them to talk to each other without deep-level changes to the core legacy code.
APIs are key.
And third, adopt a phased integration approach. Start with smaller, less complex integrations to build experience, demonstrate value, and reduce the risk before tackling the more complex, mission-critical integrations later.
Okay, makes sense. And of course, the financial aspect. Managing costs and justifying the investment. That's always a challenge with new, expensive technologies like AI.
Indeed. Managing costs and justifying investment is a major challenge because AI is not cheap. The costs for the necessary infrastructure like GPUs, specialized software, and that top-tier talent we just discussed are substantial and, importantly, ongoing.
It's not a one-time purchase.
Not at all. This high cost, combined with an ROI that is often long-term and partially intangible, makes it a major hurdle for securing and sustaining funding, especially when executives are, understandably, impatient for quick returns.
So what's the best way to handle that financial pressure and keep the projects alive long enough to demonstrate value?
You must employ that time-phased ROI framework we discussed earlier. You have to actively manage expectations by demonstrating early progress through those leading indicators like user adoption, cycle time reduction, efficiency gains, to justify the continued investment before the hard financial returns fully
Build
materialize.
the case incrementally.
Exactly. Also, start with low-cost, high-value pilots that are designed to be lean and demonstrate a clear path to value relatively quickly. This builds credibility for further larger investments, and leverage scalable cloud platforms and AI as a service offerings. These often have flexible consumption-based pricing models, which help scale infrastructure costs in line with actual usage and avoid massive upfront capital expenditures.
Use the cloud's elasticity. Okay, finally, we have to talk about ethics and trust. This is such a huge area for AI, impacting everything from internal adoption to public perception and regulation.
It is, and it's absolutely paramount. Ethical considerations, risk management, and building trust are foundational because ultimately AI adoption hinges on trust. You need trust from your employees who use the tools, trust from your customers who interact with the AI, and trust from regulators who oversee your industry.
And that trust must be earned.
It has to be earned through a demonstrable, consistent commitment to responsible AI practices. The problems here are significant and well publicized. Things like model inaccuracy and hallucinations, embedded biases in data leading to discriminatory outcomes, a lack of transparency or explainability in how AI reaches decisions, the black box problem, potential for intellectual property infringement if models are trained on copyrighted data, and the creation of new cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
And the impact on adoption.
A lack of trust in the technology is cited as a key barrier to adoption by nearly 40% of business leaders in some surveys. People don't trust it, they won't use it effectively or at all.
So how do you mitigate these complex ethical and trust issues in a practical, operational sense? What can companies actually do?
First, establish and enforce clear principles for responsible AI, overseen by that AI ethics committee we talked about. These principles should govern all AI development and deployment. Second, practice radical transparency. Be clear and upfront with users when they are interacting with an AI system versus a human. This builds trust and helps manage expectations.
Let people know what they're dealing with.
Exactly. Third, implement human-in-the-loop (HITL) validation, especially for high-risk applications where errors have significant consequences. Ensure a human expert reviews and validates AI-generated outputs or decisions before they're acted upon.
Keep humans involved in critical steps.
Absolutely. And fourth, conduct rigorous, continuous auditing and monitoring of AI models specifically to test for bias, fairness, and performance degradation over time. This isn't a one-time check at launch, it's an ongoing process. Our source provides a Table 4, the AI Integration Challenge and Mitigation Playbook, which acts as a kind of pre-mortem tool for leadership teams to anticipate and proactively address these obstacles before they derail projects.
So we've dissected the challenges and the strategies for successful AI integration right now. But here's where it gets really fascinating looking forward. Our sources strongly suggest that the current wave of AI integration, as significant as it is really just the beginning. We're apparently on the cusp of an even more profound transformation.
That's absolutely right. We're talking about the next wave, the rise of autonomous and agentic AI. The evolution of AI in the enterprise can be understood pretty well through a hierarchy of autonomy, much like the levels defined for autonomous driving, level 1, level 2, etc. This progression marks a clear trajectory from simple task automation towards intelligent, goal-driven autonomous action.
Okay, can you walk us through those levels of autonomy? How does that progression work?
Certainly. At the bottom, level 1 chain is basically rigid, rule-based robotic process automation, RPA. Actions and their sequence are strictly predefined. Think of extracting data from a specific field in an invoice PDF and entering it into a database field. Very fixed.
Simple automation.
Then you have level 2 workflow. Here, the possible actions might still be predefined, but the sequence can be dynamically determined by a model based on context. A good example is a retrieval augmented generation, RAG pipeline, that decides which knowledge base or document set to query based on the specifics of a customer's question.
Okay, so a little more flexible than a simple chain, deciding the path. What's next in the progression towards more autonomy?
Next up is level 3, partially autonomous. Here, the agent is given a goal, maybe resolve this customer's billing issue. It can then independently plan, execute, and even adjust a sequence of actions using a defined toolkit, like accessing the CRM, the billing system, the knowledge base, with minimal human oversight needed. It figures out the steps itself.
Okay, goal-oriented action.
And finally, you reach level 4, fully autonomous. This type of agent operates with little to no direct human oversight. It can potentially work across different domains or systems. It might proactively set its own sub-goals in service of a larger objective, and may even create its own temporary tools or scripts to achieve them.
Wow. Can you give an example of level 4?
Imagine a strategic research agent tasked broadly with identify new market opportunities in Southeast Asia. It might independently scour market data reports, competitor regulatory filings, news feeds, social media sentiment, synthesize all that information, and generate a strategic recommendation with supporting evidence, all autonomously.
That's a huge leap in capability from simple automation, and our sources suggest that most enterprise applications are still at the lower levels, but rapidly moving up towards level 3 and beyond.
Precisely. While most enterprise AI applications today are probably still operating at levels 1 and 2, the underlying technology, more powerful foundation models with advanced reasoning capabilities, better data infrastructure, emerging agent development tools, is rapidly advancing the frontier toward level 3 and even early level 4 capabilities.
And the benefit of these more autonomous agents.
This shift towards greater autonomy will transform business processes by introducing capabilities that are simply impossible to achieve with human-only teams or traditional automation. Think about accelerated execution through parallel processing of tasks, dynamic adaptability to real-time data streams, deep personalization of services at scale, operational elasticity to instantly scale up or down to meet fluctuating demand, and enhanced resilience to disruptions because agents can react and replan instantly.
This sounds like it will fundamentally change how businesses are even structured. What does this mean for the future operating model of a company?
It means we're likely moving towards what our source calls the agentic AI mesh. To fully capitalize on the power of these collaborative, autonomous agents, organizations will need to evolve their underlying technology architecture significantly. The current model of monolithic IT systems and siloed AI projects just won't cut it.
So what is this agentic AI mesh?
The future likely requires this new paradigm. Think of it as a composable, distributed, and ideally vendor-agnostic architecture designed specifically to allow multiple specialized AI agents to reason, collaborate, and act autonomously right across the enterprise. It acts like a digital nervous system for the organization,
A nervous system connecting all the agents.
enabling seamless communication and orchestration between different agents, legacy systems, diverse data sources, and various foundation models. It's the connective tissue.
So it's not just about integrating a few AI tools here and there, but building an entire interconnected ecosystem designed for machine-to-machine interaction from the ground up. That's a fundamentally different architectural approach.
It is a fundamental shift. Key components of this mesh would include things like an AI asset registry, knowing what agents and models you have, tools for agent and workflow discovery, how do agents find each other, robust observability and monitoring, what are the agents doing, unified security and compliance layers spanning the mesh, and feedback management systems for continuous learning.
This sounds like a long-term vision.
The transition to an agent-first architecture is definitely a long-term strategic imperative. In the short term, APIs will serve as the primary bridge to existing systems, absolutely. However, leaders need to direct their CIOs and chief technology officers, CTOs, to begin planning the multi-year journey toward an IT infrastructure where user interfaces, business logic, and data access layers are natively designed for machine-to-machine interaction. This architectural foresight is essential for building the operational agility required to compete effectively in an increasingly agentic future.
This all sounds incredibly transformative, potentially revolutionary. But it also raises the biggest question on everyone's mind whenever you talk about advanced automation. What does this mean for jobs? For the workforce?
That's obviously a crucial point, and probably the most sensitive one. The rise of agentic AI will inevitably and profoundly reshape the workforce. There's no denying that. However, the prevailing narrative, and the one leaders should probably emphasize, shouldn't necessarily be one of wholesale replacement, but more of collaboration and augmentation.
Human-AI teaming.
Exactly. The most effective organizations, the winners in this new era, will likely be those that master the art of human-AI collaboration, creating a state of super agency where technology amplifies human productivity, creativity, and strategic thinking, freeing people up for higher-level tasks.
When employees are worried.
Employees are acutely aware of this shift. Surveys show many believe AI will replace a significant chunk, maybe 30%, of their current work tasks in the near future. Now, this won't necessarily lead to mass unemployment across the board, but it will lead to a large-scale redefinition of job roles and create a critical, urgent need for reskilling and upskilling. The World Economic Forum highlights this, noting that 77% of employers recognize the need to reskill their workforce significantly by 2030 just to enable effective collaboration with AI.
So a massive skill shift is coming, faster than maybe we've seen before. What specific skills will likely decline in value and which will rise? What should people focus on?
This transformation will trigger a really significant skill shift. We'll likely see a decline in the value of routine skills, things related to routine information processing, basic data entry, simple knowledge recall, as these tasks are increasingly and more efficiently handled by AI agents.
The automatable tasks.
Right. Conversely, the value of uniquely human skills, things AI currently struggles to replicate authentically, will soar. These include abilities like complex problem solving involving ambiguity and novel situations, critical thinking and judgment, creativity and innovation, emotional intelligence and empathy, sophisticated interpersonal communication and collaboration, ethical judgment and reasoning, and deep contextual understanding of nuanced situations.
Skills AI can't easily mimic.
Essentially, yes. The workforce of the future will likely be valued less for what it knows, as knowledge becomes instantly accessible via AI, and more for how it thinks, relates, creates, and exercises judgment.
What's fascinating here, and something the source touches on, is the potential inversion of the traditional strategy-operations relationship.
Yeah.
How might that work in an agentic future? That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? Historically, strategy formulation has been a predominantly top-down process. Human leaders analyze data, set the strategy, and then the operational arms of the business execute it.
Standard model.
In an agentic future, this could become a much more dynamic, bidirectional feedback loop. Imagine, for example, an autonomous supply chain agent constantly optimizing logistics based on terabytes of real-time data. Over time, it might discover a persistent, highly efficient, but perhaps unconventional route or logistics pattern through a previously unconsidered market or using a new modality.
An emergent pattern from the data.
Exactly. This operational insight, surfaced perhaps by a specialized data analysis agent, could flag a major strategic opportunity that no human analyst might have spotted in the noise. Human strategists would then validate this bottom-up insight, potentially pivoting the entire corporate strategy based on an opportunity discovered autonomously at the operational level by an AI agent.
So operations could start driving strategy in new ways.
Potentially. In this new world, competitive advantage might stem less from having the smartest human analysts, though they'll still be crucial, and more from having the smartest, most adaptive network of interconnected agents generating proprietary insights from operational data. The role of human strategists could evolve from pure analysis and planning to more like hypothesis generation, experimentation design, and curation of the complex human AI systems that actually drive the business forward.
This new reality, this hybrid human-machine workforce, clearly demands a new kind of leadership as well. What does that look like? What's needed from leaders?
Absolutely. Leading a hybrid human-machine workforce is arguably the next major frontier of management science. It requires a fundamentally new leadership paradigm focused on orchestrating this complex collaboration effectively. Leaders must move beyond simply deploying technology. Their role becomes designing new human AI workflows, actively fostering trust in automated systems, which is hard, and carefully managing the cultural anxieties and transitions that accompany such profound change.
It might even require new roles at the top.
It may well necessitate the creation of new C-suite roles, specifically to champion and manage this transformation. One potential role envisioned in the source material is that of a Chief Productivity Officer.
Chief Productivity Officer.
Interesting. Yes, a leader dedicated specifically to optimizing AI-human collaboration across the enterprise. This executive would be responsible for driving workforce augmentation strategies, developing new KPIs to measure the output and effectiveness of hybrid human AI teams, and ensuring that AI-driven efficiencies are aligned not just with cost-cutting, but with strategic business growth and employee well-being. This leader would, in essence, be the chief architect of the future, AI-powered organization. #outro.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you listening right now? The core message from our deep dive today is pretty clear. Enterprise AI integration is really no longer just a technological choice. It's becoming a fundamental strategic imperative that will likely define market leaders for the next decade. We've definitely moved beyond the era of passive adoption and scattered, often low-impact experimentation. The mandate now is for demonstrable value realization. It's about moving from simply doing AI to truly profiting from AI by being willing to rewire the business and embrace these powerful, often complex, agentic systems.
And just to reiterate those final strategic recommendations for the C-suite, tying back to the initial paradox we explored, here's that blueprint for action distilled from our sources. 1. Reset the AI transformation agenda. Pivot decisively to a business-led approach. Be willing to retire low-impact horizontal tools and realign investment onto high-impact strategic programs focused on reinventing core end-to-end business processes.
Focus on the big wins.
2. Establish C-suite-led governance. Create that strategic AI council at the highest level, chaired by a C-suite executive, to own the enterprise AI vision, coordinate investments, manage risks effectively, and enforce that rigorous, multidimensional value tracking framework we discussed.
Top-level ownership.
3. Launch lighthouse transformation projects. Don't just do pilots. Undertake bold, agentic transformations of entire critical workflows, not just single use cases. These projects serve as powerful proofs of concept and build the organization's muscle for executing deep change.
Go big on a few key areas.
4. Champion a culture of human-AI collaboration. Invest heavily and continuously in upskilling. Ensure visible leadership buy-in. Celebrate experimentation and learning from failures. And consistently communicate a vision of AI as augmentation, not replacement, to build trust.
Their people side is critical.
And 5. Mandate the development of an agent-first architecture. Begin the multi-year journey now to evolve the enterprise architecture toward that agentic AI mesh. Ensure that current technology decisions are made with this future agent-driven state in mind. Failing to start this architectural journey today will almost certainly create a significant competitive disadvantage down the road.
Okay, that's a clear call to action. And this raises, I think, an important final question for you, our listener. In a world that is rapidly shifting towards more autonomous AI, how will you leverage these kinds of insights to redefine your own role or perhaps even your organization strategy to not just survive, but actually thrive in this coming agented future? The frameworks and the examples we've shared today aren't just for executives sitting in the boardroom. They're really tools for anyone looking to navigate and shape this profound technological shift that's already underway. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep focusing on driving real value.